looking at that brake fluid, I'm guessing it's probably never been changed, and I'd assume it's the same as cars. Every 2 years you want to be changing that. Reason being, it's hygroscopic, it attracts moisture. Not that these brakes are going to get massively hot, but obviously any moisture in the brake fluid is going to cause it to boil and cause you all sorts of problems. So we're having that out. Going to do a brake fluid change on the rear, and we'll do the front as well, because they're both the same age, I would have guessed. Back brake's fairly simple. Reservoir here. The method I do is I'll try and get most of that out. I don't see the point in pushing any manky stuff through, because if there's any bits, it's likely going to be in there where someone's had the cap off and looking at it and playing with it. So I'll suck that out. We'll fill this up with fresh stuff, bleed it out. It should be as simple as that, no dramas. Brake bleeding's nothing to be scared of, really. Just a few basic principles. You don't want air going in, and if you don't crack the bleed screw off here, never crack that off when you're letting the brake off. You always want pressure on it, so you're pushing stuff that way. You don't want to be sucking air in, because when you let this pedal off, if you've got that open, it will draw back a little bit of fluid. We will have a pipe on it with a non-return valve, but if you bear that basic principle in mind, you don't want to be sucking air back in. You won't have any problems. It's fairly straightforward. The worst one is going to be the front, because we've got to mess with this, and these screws, they normally give you grief. They might have to see the business end of a impact driver, but we'll try and release them properly first, a bit more sedate. So basically, got an old syringe, come out of some sort of kit, 8mm spanner for the bleed nipple, rubber glove bottle. This pipe's got a non-return valve in it, but you can use just a jar, as long as you keep the pipe in the fluid, and it acts a bit like a P-trap in your drains. You won't let the air back in, so if it does suck in when you lift the pedal up or brake lever up, it will just draw in fluid, it won't draw in air. Air's the key. Keep the air out and we're good to go. I'm going to dump the old stuff in this. This is about half full, this one. It's a bit of a shame, but it's probably been at least 18 months old, this. Always use fresh brake fluid. Like I said, it's hygroscopic, so I've got a new one today. Yeah, it's hygroscopic, it attracts moisture, so even if that lid's been on, that fluid's probably no good, so we'll just get rid of it. It's a bit of a waste, but that's just how it is. So first thing then is we'll get rid of the old fluid and we'll dump it in here. So this should be, make sure this is clean. I don't know if this thing's ever been off, but yeah. There's the cap, there's a rubber seal in there. Come on, don't be shy. You can see kind of moisture's built up on the top there, so with a clean kitchen towel, get rid of that. There's no point in putting it back in. Right, that's that. Back in the lid, keep that safe. I'm going to keep that covered up as well. So let's get this out. The theory being, I should be able to just draw this out like that, and then dump it in this. You'll see the colour of that. It goes dark when it's old, but obviously it depends on what colour it was when it went in. But I say I've got no idea how old this is, so let's get rid. Now that's out. Seal on this one, and then try and get this in here without making a mess. Paintwork really doesn't like brake fluid, so avoid getting it on your paint. And if you do, water is about the best thing you can get. But I know you can buy a brake cleaner, but if you want to get it off, water really good for brake fluid. Shift it. You just don't want it in the brake system. Right, let's get on to the bleeding. Right, so bleeding it. bottle. This one's got a non-return valve in it. You can get them where they've just got like a screw in the end, and the hose is a little bit softer and it's just got a split in it. It does exactly the same thing, won't let the air back in. So hook it up, because we don't want this pipe under any sort of tension. 8mm spanner on here. I normally just make sure you can undo it. There we go, that's fine. Make sure you can undo it first, and then we'll sneak the pipe on. Try and keep any kinks out of it. And this is the simple basic process. We're going to pressurise it, hold it down, open it up, let the air out, close it, let that up, pressurise it, hold it down, keep going like that. You can do it quickly by holding it open and just pumping it, but there's no air in the system at the minute, so let's not risk getting any more in. So here we go, and we'll just keep doing this until that is almost gone and this is running clear, and then we'll top it up, rinse and repeat. So pressurise it, let the fluid out, pedal will go down, lock the bleed nipple, pedal up, press it, lock it off, keep going. Now it's starting to come through now, and luckily the stuff that's going in is a lot lighter, so it should be fairly straightforward to see when we're winning. Right, we've done one of them. This is only a small system, the pipe's only this long, what's that, foot, so there's not going to be an awful lot of fluid in there. It's not a massive brake caliper, so what I'll do is I'll top it above the maximum. The fluid is coming clean out of the pipe, so we'll top it up to the maximum, and then I'll just bring it down so we're about halfway. You don't want to overfill it and you don't want to underfill it really, but if you imagine if you ever change the brake pads and push the pistons back, it's then going to squeeze all this fluid. Theoretically, the amount that I leave in here should never change unless there's a leak. So under normal circumstances it should be fine. And then if you put new pads in, put the pistons back, if I leave it just about there, I don't know if you can see that, get my pointer. Maximum's there, minimum's there, we're just about in the middle. So, and there's plenty of there, it's easy to see, so if there's a problem we'll see it before it becomes an issue. And then we just pop this rubber back in. Try and get that one straight if you can. There we go, hopefully you can see that, it's nice clean. There's no air in it, it's not pumping up, it's hard, stays hard, that's fine, happy with that. Right, let's crack on with the front. I'll put a link at the end of this video for more stuff. I hope this is of use to you, help you save a few quid. Right, I'm going to tack the front now. Just to set this up, I've got the brake lever twisted up. I'm trying to keep this level that way, and I've tilted the bars to try and keep it as level as I can that way, because obviously we're going to be taking the top off this and it's full of fluid. Don't want to have it on the side stand and fluid go everywhere. Right, let's see how these come out. Actually, it's pretty good. Hopefully the other one behaves itself like that. You see it's wet around there, so I don't know if we've got a bit of a leak or whether they were too loose. That one's easy. Right, that one. Put them somewhere clean and see what's under here. that's not coming off. Grab a screwdriver and see if I can't get it underneath here. Now, I don't want to be jamming this in here because this feels, that's probably alley, but this feels like plastic. All I'm doing is trying to break the seal. I'm guessing it's just where it's, I doubt if this thing's been off. That's better. Yeah, it's just a bit gooeyed up. Get rid of that. Right. So, see that? I'll give this a bit of a clean up and then we'll get that out. I'll take this out in the sun. Hopefully this isn't too bright. There you go, see all that moisture in there, so we'll have that out. That's not good. That's the lid side. The lid's sort of where my thumb should be, or where my thumb is rather, that's where the lid will be. But we'll get all that. So same as the back, what I like to do is get all this whole fluid out. I don't see any value in putting it through the system. It's obviously a lot easier to do when you're using both your hands, but bit of a syringe action for a, what are we, Monday morning? Right, now, one thing you've got to be aware of is the problem with, or the thing we're trying to protect ourselves from, is sucking air in. So obviously if I start squeezing this brake lever now, it's just going to pull air in. So, toot sweet, we'll get some fluid in there. Right, again, I've tried to get this, or trying to keep this as level as I can. And pop some in, not too much, we don't want it going everywhere. Now when we bleed it, right from the get-go, we're putting the nice clean stuff through. So let's get around and bleed this bad boy. Same thing, we won't let this, the lever out without the bleed nipple being shut, because that's where we're going to suck the air in. We're trying to keep air out of the system, make this nice and straightforward. If you're changing hydraulic components and obviously there's air, you've got to deal with that, but let's see how we go on. I've got to reach across and sort of operate this brake lever at the same time as keeping an eye on it. So I'm just going to pull it in. There we go. Then lock it off, let the lever out, pull it in, let some out, lock it off. Keep an eye on the brake fluid, try and get a feel for how much it's going through with each pump. So lever in, pressurise it, all the way in, lock it, let it out slowly. I'm doing this slowly, there's no point in rushing this. Right. Do a bit of gymnastic, there you go, I can see the level now. In, out, in, out. I won't bore you with the details of this one. I'm going to top that fluid up, keep the fluid handy so you can just grab it. Now we're getting a little bit lower than I would have liked, but pop that up. It's going to go everywhere, but right, rinse and repeat. Right, put a couple through this now. Reason being, that pipe's obviously a lot longer than the rear, and this master cylinder isn't exactly massive, so I put a couple through it. This is the last one. I'm literally just checking now, making sure nothing's come out. All the while you're doing this, obviously you're trying to see if there's any air bubbles coming out of there, because that will alert you to a problem. That's it, lock that off, that's it, job done. So now cap on, check it all works. Simple as. Alright, so that's that done. See a little bit of excess here. We don't want this on there. Get that off, and then I'll give it a good clean up. I'll give it a good clean up when the cap's back on. Don't want to risk any more muck going in there than we have to. One thing I did have to do, I used that one for the rear, it was fine, but where this is a slightly smaller bleed nipple, that didn't go on. It was a loose, well, it went on, it was just loose, and there's no point in fighting with a loose because then you can risk sucking air in, and we want to see it. You don't want to see bubbles going up when it's actually coming from the side of the tube rather than at the brakes. We're only interested in what's actually in the system. So a little bit of hose, use clear when you can, because you can see what's going on then. If there's a problem, you can see the bubbles in it. Other than that, button this up, job done. I say it's fairly straightforward. Just don't be frightened of it, but take your time. Basic principles, you don't want to be sucking air in. As long as you follow that, it's a fairly simple operation really. Just make sure everything's tight. Don't over tighten this stuff. It just needs a little nip. You start snapping them and you're in a world of pain. But yeah, brake fluid change. Take your time, save a few quid.